Greetings from Pompey. The clouds right now are not a concern. Hello, Zina. Let me give you the wide-angle view of what's happening. The sky is reasonably good, and the weather forecast for tonight, at least according to Astrospheric, it is improving, and we should have some crystal clear skies with good viewing from about 9 o'clock till about 11, and then a very clear night from 1 onwards. No, the moon is coming back. Hello, Jeannie. We had a very good night last night. In summary, Dwarf 3 did very well. C-Star had slightly sharper images given that it has 50% more glass. Certainly Dwarf 3 had a much wider field of view, and targets like the California Nebula and the Heart Nebula looked very nice on Dwarf 3. There is one target that we failed to touch last night. We're going to attempt to do it tonight, maybe, and that's the North American Nebula. It was very high last night. So tonight is going to be viewer's choice. As soon as we're able to calibrate at 8 o'clock, we will I'll take your requests now so we can line up the targets. And this morning, I attempted to get Comet C2023 A3 Tsuchinchan Atlas, but did not succeed. However, Dwarf 3 did extremely well on 3 fronts. 1. As the sun was rising, I pointed it to a dark patch of sky that had not lit up yet, and it was able to calibrate. 2. I asked it to go find the Orion Nebula, and it did immediately, and we stacked it for a few minutes. And then, not knowing what to expect, I sent it to Mercury. It found Mercury. We imaged Mercury for a little bit, and then asked it to go to the comet. The comet was still in the trees, below the trees, and sure enough, it imaged the trees and the mountain for several minutes with no problem. But by the time the comet had gotten above the horizon was very bright. That's a much nicer moon. So we're going to take a photo and then video. I will refrain from confusing matters tonight by having two telescopes, so we will not have two telescopes, just the one. Ooh. We're very low on memory, so I better clear the memory. Let's see if it's gonna let me access the SD card while it is on. Surprise, it did. So let's do some cleanup. So we're about to delete 70 gigabytes worth of FITS files. Yesterday morning we ran an experiment on Dwarf 3, and I think Zena witnessed some of it. We tried to image the sun, and the temperature, the sensor temperature on Dwarf 3 rose to 170 degrees. I'm waiting to see when Dwarf is gonna notice that it has a lot more memory. The latest firmware upgrade I do not store and organize data. The only things I store at the end of the day are the final processed stacked files and I use these into a monthly slideshow. No, the memory that came with it is, I believe, 100 gigabytes. It is 128 gigabytes, the total capacity. So I'm waiting for this number to go up. Yesterday the moon went straight through the tree. I don't know if it's going to clear it or not tonight. We'll see. Chuck, you think that 128 gigabytes is sufficient? We filled up 2/3 of that in 2 nights. That is one thing about Dwarf that I do not like. It does not give us the option of not storing every single frame. And those, every single frame, are not small. They are 8 megapixels times multiple bytes per pixel. Pico, let me see, where did you post it? Yes, I got it, thank you. I got word from Dwarf Lab, unfortunately, that they messed up something, and they asked me if I could get the order numbers of people who used my link. It's not going to be easy to know from those who did not use the link, but thank you very much. Hello, Pelouse. What about the microphone? I was checking to see what's going on with the Dwarf Lab today. They are on mid-autumn break for the next several days. D3 microphone. No. Let's try it right away. I'm going to record a short video and talk at it while recording the video and then play it back and see what we get. Stand by. We're going to do it with both wide angle and narrow angle. With all the motorcycles out there, I don't know that we need any more noise, but this is a test of the microphone. Let's see if it works. Ouch, sorry. So far, no evidence of sound. There's something strange going on. The two videos that I just recorded, I'm unable to open. It says they are corrupted. And I think I know why. It doesn't like to multi-share the memory. We're either writing to it or reading from it and not both. Let's try again. It keeps saying that the file or directory is corrupted. It allowed me to copy the files that I had recorded earlier today, but not these now. So I'm going to open one of the earlier ones and see if I can pick up any sound. To answer your question, Wilbur, there is no evidence that it is recording sound. Good evening, Bill. This is viewers' night. The moon is nice, and the weather forecast for Tuesday is improving at this point. So I'm looking forward to having a good night there. And I may have mentioned that Sue from Dwarf has handed me over to Arya, who's working with me on all technical issues. And Arya gave us permission to go live with Dwarf 3 for the entirety of the lunar eclipse. So it's going to be a big Dwarf 3 showcase. Tonight it's going to be a single telescope evening, and there are certain things that I will be doing offline and certain things online. But if I have not said it enough yet, I will repeat myself here. I am fascinated by the engineering marvel that is Dwarf 3. A lot of thought has gone into designing this telescope. I can only imagine the team going for a long run on a weekend and dreaming up what it's going to be and what it's going to do. And they did well, they did good. Now, if only the software can catch up with the hardware, we will be golden. I mean, this morning's exercise, and Bill, you jumped in as I was getting off. When the dogs woke me up, right around just after 5:30, the sky was already lighting up, but I pointed Dwarf 3 as far as possible from the east as I could to find a patch of sky that had some stars in it, and sure enough it calibrated. And then once it calibrated, it was able to find Orion. Okay, big deal. It found Mercury, and that I was blown away because Mercury was only 5 degrees above the horizon. If you gentlemen would let me, I'm going to show you two quick videos. This is Mercury, and that was the telephoto, but probably more impressive. Uh-oh, nope. Okay, this is the one I want. Alright, work with me. Can you see Mercury here? It is a very clear dot, and that was the wide angle lens. This is exactly what the sky looked like from my window. It was gorgeous. And there is Mercury right at the tip of the arrow. I sure hope you guys can see it. If not, we'll go back to Mercury. Nope, other one. This was a wide angle stack of the entire sky. There's Orion, and you probably can tell sunrise. Okay. So I am optimistic that we will pick up the comet before long. I found myself using glasses this morning. I don't think so. Betelgeuse was there. Let me see. Good evening, Emmanuel. I don't know about averted vision, but I was pleasantly surprised at the wide angle, which is about 60 degrees. We could still see tiny Mercury. Let me pull it back up. Okay guys, in about 12 minutes I will calibrate, and I need suggestions from you as to what to go for. We have not done any clusters yet, so I could look for clusters, but let me go back to Palooza's question about Betelgeuse. Okay, here's another quick shot of Mercury. Voila. That is Betelgeuse, that is Bellatrix. This is Orion's Belt, Alnitak, and next to it, this is where we find both the Flame Nebula and the Horsehead, and then that's Orion. Jeannie, were you able to see Orion with your telescope yet? It should be readily visible. And this is my roof. Remember, that is my window perch for the dwarf. One target that we have not done with Dwarf 3 yet is Dumbbell Nebula, and it is very visible right now. And then we have M2 and M15, both are visible. And they're all far enough from the moon. I mean, the moon should not impact M2 and M15, so we should be good there. NGC 7000 is a possibility before we lose it, so I'm gonna go for it. No, Randy, it is sitting outside, very outside. Don't know why we have the reflection. Let me see if it lets me adjust exposure on the wide angle lens and see if that's the issue. Okay, it has a gain of 60, so that would do it. There is still a reflection. Don't know. Yeah, don't know what to say. Thanks for pointing it. The software team is working frantically on updates to Dwarf 3. I have been getting a new app almost every day, a new version with firmware updates that go with it. They will catch up, the software will catch up with the hardware. Right now the hardware is good. And I'm refraining from bombarding them with nice to haves. I have a long list of nice to haves, but we need to get the must haves working properly first. So I'm going to give it 5 minutes and then calibrate and then go to the North America Nebula. That's one target I've been anxious to do with the dual band filter. Be right back. One nice thing about the dwarf is it will start calibrating from whatever part of the sky you point it to, which is excellent. So let's point it to away from the moon. Stop tracking the moon. Let's go to 3-ish. Let's go wide angle. And first thing we do is we head over to the maple tree. There's the maple tree. These are my two tree boundaries, the maple tree and the spruce. And now we go way up. And then we switch back. We no longer need the wide angle. We go to astro and we keep our fingers crossed. Calibration. Okay, it is seeing stars. This is good. This is good. And this should be very good. Okay, give us success, please. Okay. Atlas. Let's see how much of that dwarf is going to get us. It got us a satellite, okay. First of all, filter, duo band. Second, shutter. I've been very comfortable with 10 and 120. That appears to be a good default, so we're going to go with it. I mentioned earlier that I see no need to take darks. The sensor is very clean. I like to move it to the peak and then let it do its thing. This is one target that C-Star would not be able to cover. It really is a large nebula, and C-Star might get a little piece of it. I'm looking forward to the mosaic mode with C-Star with a little trepidation. If you're spending 4 times as much time on a target to build the mosaic, then you're incurring 4 times as much field rotation. And I don't know that C-Star is going to do well in equatorial mode and mosaic. Remains to be seen. I can already see the North America Nebula taking shape. That's going to be an interesting image to capture. What are you cooking for dinner, Jeannie? Maybe we can join you. So it looks like the plan for tonight is taking shape as the North American Nebula and then the dumbbell M27, and then moving on to M15 and M2. Oh, nice. Enjoy your dinner. So M27, M15 and M2, I am willing to trade them for anything that you guys would rather see. We're gonna give North America probably about an hour to do justice. I finished building my equatorial mount, and I plan to test it, but I just did not feel like doing that tonight. It may have to wait till after the eclipse. Right now the lunar eclipse is going to be a Dwarf 3 solo show with a backup from C-Star. I do not dare have Dwarf 2 and Dwarf 3 in the same place, lest they get into another fight. And we may have to switch back and forth, given that C-Star's field of view is going to be a lot more suitable for the lunar eclipse. Hello Jacob, I was thinking of you. How you doing? Jeannie, make sure that your mom subscribes to the channel since you have her on. I don't know if you guys noticed, but we reached 3900 last night. Think I'm alive. The weather forecast according to Astrospheric for Tuesday night, they are talking about clear skies from 8 p.m. till 2 a.m. That will give us all the time we need for the lunar eclipse, keeping fingers crossed. So we are at 8 minutes, 48 stacked so far, and it's looking nice. I downloaded the images that we took yesterday and the day before in our nebula marathon the past 2 days, and I'm gonna see if there is a uniform way of post-processing them to get the most out of them. I'm eager to see if I can run those images through a spectrum analyzer, a two-dimensional fast Fourier transform, to identify the wavelength components that are in it, in the images, and then compare these to the C star. For the most part, both sets of images look very, very similar, except that C star has more stars. It sees more stars than dwarf does. And I'm not sure if this is an artifact of more glass and a deeper well in the sensor, or the dual band filters in dwarf being narrower bands filtering out more dead stars. Don't know at this point. Jacob, looks like you're doing better. You just wrote 4 words that are bigger than 4 letters each. That's a move in the right direction. Yeah, yesterday when we put the images side by side and zoomed in, C star was showing a lot more stars. We were seeing a lot more stars, and I'd like to know whether dwarf is cleaning out the stars that are strictly white and keeping only those with O3 and H-alpha in them. Whoa. So when are they gonna send you home? Ah. Ooh, ouch. That hurts. I hope they are keeping you drugged out. Okay. Is your travel mate hanging around waiting for you? Right now I expect to be here probably till the end of the night. I mean, before tomorrow. There is a risk of clouds starting at 11. If clouds indeed move at 11, that'll be the end of it. Zina, is your sister subscribed? And how old is your sister? Sorry, I could not resist. I take that back. So we are at 100 stacked, and the North American nebula is looking North American. This is nice. This morning, Dwarf 3 refused to look below the horizon. That is a would like to have feature. discussed it briefly with Jacob. Don't know what it will do in equatorial mode yet, if it will go below the horizon or not, because it's going to have to, otherwise we are losing half the sky. And in Alt-as mode, since the future home of the Pompey Observatory is going to be on a hill and I can look below the horizon, that's going to be the saving grace on Messier Marathon that will allow me to catch M30. Catching Mercury this morning was a test of being able to get that final Messier object during sunrise. But it's gonna have to let me go below the horizon. Either that, or I'm gonna have to cheat on it by changing the time zone by an hour. And this way it's gonna think that everything is higher by about 10 degrees. To the folks who just joined us, station identification, this is the Pompey Observatory, covering the heavens in real time with a multitude of telescopes. Tonight, Dwarf 3 in dual band is looking at the North American Nebula, and then we're going to hop onto the Dumbbell, and then possibly a couple of clusters. But since this is viewer's choice night, if there is anything else you'd like us to look at, please put them in the chat. No, that appears to be the sensor. CGD, Horsehead and Flame will not rise till the wee hours of the morning. Pico, yesterday I was imaging the sun and that temperature hit 69 Celsius. I blinked at that point and turned off Dwarf and brought it inside. I almost burned my fingers because the plastic was extremely hot. That's supposed to be the sensor temperature. I did Horsehead and Flame in the same field of view 2 nights ago. You should be able to see them. I have them posted. Or do I? trying to see if I can grab it up, pull it up. I'm just going to show you this briefly and then we'll come back. This is what I dreaded. (69°C). Don't know what is the melting temperature for the plastic for the case, but it was hot enough that I almost burned my fingers bringing it in. We are at 150 frames stacked at 10 seconds per frame. That's 25 minutes. We will give the North American Nebula another 25 minutes. So we're going to go till 9 p.m. Yesterday by 9 p.m. we could no longer see it. It was way too high. So we may or may not get an additional 150 frames. We'll see. I don't know for dumbbell if it's gonna matter whether we have the dual band filter on or not. Pico, are you talking about the 69 Celsius? That's about right. And I wonder what the temperature, how high it gets inside a locked car in the sun in Phoenix. Zena would know that. And if you left electronics in the car, well, the electronics that are part of the car, as to what they do in such extreme heat. Hello, Tariq. I have had both Stellina and Sea Star suffer freak rainstorms, and they were no worse for the wear. Stellina in particular, they claim that it is water resistant, not quite waterproof. This image of the North America Nebula is cleaning up quite nicely. James Bay is very clear at this point. And Hudson Bay is nice. If they are there, they would be out of the picture. Florida and Gulf of Mexico. If anything, they will be down here. But what gives it the name is really the Hudson Bay, Newfoundland and Labrador, and then James Bay right here. Obviously quite a bit of poetic license gets exercised when naming nebula and galaxies for that matter. If you assume that this is the East Coast really, then it's only your imagination that will limit you from deciding what is here in terms of much of the eastern seaboard. And even with the wide field of view of Dwarf 3, we cannot get the entirety of the North American nebula. That is going to require stacking a wide angle lens imagery. You're welcome, CGD. Remember, a lot of poetic license was exercised here, so this is not a perfect replica of the North American continent. We're at 35 minutes stacked, 210 frames. Have a good night, Tarek, or good morning, good nap. Pico, yes, I did. Did that with Orion. Let me pull it up. I did not spend much time on it. I was doing a quick test of everything the first night that I got Dwarf. Alright, coming. There we go. This was a stack of the Orion complex in wide angle. That is Betelgeuse, Bellatrix, Alnitak, and there is Orion. It was just a quick test of wide angle stacking, and this is 87%. So at 100%, it's going to be a lot bigger. You found the wizard and the wizard nebula. Good. By the time the Milky Way comes back around for next summer, I'm looking forward to a nice stack of the Milky Way wide angle. CGD, some names are more readily obvious than others. The Cat's Eye Nebula is spot on, for example. The Horsehead, obviously, the Flame. Pico, you may have seen the post from Dwarf Lab showing lots of Dwarf 3s being packaged and ready for shipping. I know for a fact that one shipment already made it to the US. These were very early orders, the May time frame, but they expect to have everything fulfilled within the next 4 weeks or so. They're building them fast and furious, so they'll be catching up soon. 240 frames, 40 minutes. Gonna give it 10 more elapsed time minutes, 10 more minutes, 8 more minutes, sorry, and then I'm gonna move on to the dumbbell. Yeah, Cat's Eye is very small but very beautiful, very, very beautiful target. Iris Nebula is another nice one to do. And one that I have not been able to do with Dwarf 3 yet is the Cocoon Nebula. Don't know what it is tonight. C19 is doable. It is 67 azimuth and 64 altitude. Good evening, Rochester. The app is being updated every day, literally. Being on their beta test team, I wake up to a new app literally every morning. I mean, I've had the dwarf for 3 days, make it 4 now. It arrived Wednesday evening, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I've had it for 4 days, and I've had 4 app updates, including firmware upgrades. The engineers at Dwarf have been extremely responsive to I will not call them bugs, but these are features that are still under test. For example, this morning they added factory presets for deep sky object capture and stacking. Factory presets in terms of exposure, gain, and resolution. So there are 3 factory presets that you can pick one of them and go with it, or you can manually enter things. But to answer your question, we are not at a stage or at a point yet where we're making use of all of the hardware that is in the Dwarf 3. I don't know if we can beat the picture of the Atlas picture of Cocoon. Alright, let's go to Cocoon in an orderly manner. Just want to point to you this picture, if you can see it, how clean it is in terms of no hot pixels, nothing red, green or blue in it. By the way, this was Orion, and you can see the Running Man Nebula with it. And let me show you where. These are the presets. You can pick any one of these, which we are not gonna do. Filter, dual band, shutter, 10, I'm trying to take everything with gain 120, shutter 10 and dual band filter for the nebula. Let's go. Continue the shooting, do not take darks, we don't need darks. This was the Flame Nebula and the Horsehead Nebula. Very, very short exposure. This was again part of the very first day, trying to capture lots of things and see what they look like. I will have to go back to this one to do justice, but you can notice here the extreme field rotation on the edges. That one begs for equatorial mount. Back to Cocoon, starting to form. Yes, it is. It's like watching paint dry, but slightly more exciting. Okay, we're back. This is Cocoon. We'll give it a little bit more. Hi, Jacob. Dumbbell is going to be very small, obviously. I am pleased to point that the stars are still very round, with the 172 stacked, approaching a 30-minute stack now. So looking at the quick comparison between C-star, S50 and Dwarf 3, other than the field of view, C-star is a vertically aligned sensor, vertically oriented. So the height of the C-star sensor and the height of the Dwarf 3 sensor are almost the same. And then Dwarf is about 5 times wider. But besides the field of view differences, C-star still has slightly higher resolution. Palouse River Observatory last night did a lot of math for us, showing that the number of pixels per arc second or arc seconds per pixel. The big difference is really the sensors. The 2 megapixel sensor of C-star uses bigger transistors than the 8 megapixel sensor of Dwarf, making it slightly more sensitive to light. Plus, needless to say, the big glass makes a difference. Emmanuel, this was Helix last night. And just a reminder, we were dealing with the moon as well. So the light gradient that you see there, we also had some clouds to deal with, but that was Cocoon. Sorry, Helix. Good morning, Martina. Wetzlar. Where is Wetzlar? Deutschland. Okay. Guten Tag. Wetzlar looks like a very beautiful city. Just northwest of Frankfurt. Hello, Matthew. Bortle 1, assuming you have clear view of the night sky all around 360 degrees, my recommendation is to go with the classics. You certainly have the Eagle Nebula is going to be there, Swan will be there, Trifid will be there, and the Lagoon. So you have M8, M16, M17 and M20, none of which I was able to do here. You move further east, M31, M33 would be my choices for galaxies. And then the collection of nebula that we did yesterday and the last night and the night before. Certainly the two veils, Wizard, North America, California. And then if you have the time and the patience, don't know how long you're going to be there, but you can go for the dark shark. I plan to do the dark shark with the dwarf on an equatorial mount. Do it in all-nighter. Martina the Swan is moving away. It is a summer target mostly, so we're losing it quickly. Matthew, where are you going for B1 skies? Where about? Wow, 8 nights, okay. I think so. It is debatable whether the dark shark is a tiny little black thing in the middle or the whole cloud. I don't know what filter combination I would use for the dark shark at this point. Whereabouts are you going for the 8 nights? Okitech Star Party, okay. So you might see Chuck Bigby there. Chuck is going there as well. He was on the channel a bit earlier tonight. Aren't you glad you don't have to worry to carry a 16-inch telescope with you? I'm waiting for the right timing, mid-fall possibly, to drive up to the Adirondacks. A 2-hour drive from here will get me into Bortle 2, and we'll see what we can do there for a night with the Dwarf 3. So you're taking the 11-inch with you? Okay, God bless you. I've been very unhappy with the big telescopes the past week. The 16-inch Meade in Oswego. We have narrowed it down now to one MOSFET transistor possibly failed on us. After 13 years of operation, the most obvious symptom now is with the hand controller, I can move it right, I can move it left, I can move it down, but I cannot move it up. And we saw one post by someone having the exact same symptoms and turned out to be a blown transistor. Replacing a board or a transistor is going to be a lot easier than dismantling a 16-inch 250-pound scope. Hello, Peter. Okay. Although we are looking at Caldwell 19, the Cocoon Nebula. We have been on it for 247 frames so far, which is 40 minutes. I am ready to move off. I'm waiting for suggestion as to what you guys want to see next. The Dumbbell Nebula has moved out on us, so that is no longer an option. Bitteschön. We still have M15 and M2, Messier 15 and Messier 2 as options if anybody wants to see a globular cluster. M15 should be an easy, quick one, far enough from the moon, and we should not need to spend much time on it. M81. It's just a little bit too far past the meridian right now. Let me see how soon we can see M81 from here. M81 maybe. I can go and see if we can get it. I shall attempt to go to M81. It's a little bit too far past the meridian, but let me see. Ice Cream Nebula, I don't know. Okay guys, I shall attempt to go for C5 or IC342. Have not done this before, and it is well placed right now. And for those who are joining us late and have not seen this picture, this was sunrise this morning with Mercury in the middle. Want to see if, if you can see Mercury, okay, right in the middle. So we are on C5, considering that it is a galaxy. I'm gonna go with the astrofilter and sticking for now with the 10 second and gain 120. I don't know what to expect of this one. We're going to soon find out. And then after this one, we will attempt to get to M81. Hopefully it will have moved closer. Hi, it's Libby. Let me pull up Mercury again. This is Mercury zoomed in. Peter, the success this morning while I was looking for Comet 2023 Atlas Tsuchinchan, the sun was rising, as you can tell. I pointed the Dwarf 3 to a dark part of the sky and calibrated successfully. And then I told it to go to Orion, and it did. And I told it to go to Mercury, and it did, even though it was bright around it. So it did not have to play it solve. And then told it to go to the comet, and the comet was still below the trees. And we were in the trees for a good 10 minutes, by which time the sky had gotten very, very bright and there was no seeing the comet. But we'll repeat the exercise, but I'm not aware of any smart telescope that can pull it off, calibrate on the dark part of the sky, and then go image on the bright side. C-Star would definitely have failed, and Stellina would not have a chance. Yes, Bell, will do. Definite. For those who have joined us recently, this is the Pompey Observatory, enjoying the new Dwarf 3. The Pompey Observatory is a Dwarf Lab ambassador. We get to beta test early releases of hardware and software, and we are currently working closely with the Dwarf Lab engineers at testing new features, both firmware and app, of the Dwarf 3 platform. Bortle scale is the darkness level of the sky. If you're living in the middle of a city, you're likely to be Bortle 8 or 9, and if you are sailing in the middle of the ocean, you'll be Bortle 1, and you go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The Pompey Observatory is in Bortle 4, so that people living in the city will envy me, and people living in the desert or out in the country would laugh at me. So we're halfway in between. Arthur, which observatory are you talking about? Here we are Bortle 4. It's Livy. Zena does sound British, but she is not. She's from Phoenix, Arizona. We're looking at Caldwell 5, the Maffei group. It is supposed to be magnitude 9, so we should start seeing something happen soon. Peter, I'm looking at Bill's request to identify a night in which we can have a comet night. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Livy. We are a fun group ranging in expertise from very novice to very expert. Let me take another look at Tsuchinchan and see when we're going to have a good view. It is improving now on a daily basis, but not for long. For example, tomorrow morning it rises at 6:19, and the sun rises at 6:44. So over the next few days, the distance between the comet and the sun is going to increase. The 28th of September is the farthest the comet will be from the sun. Good night, Zena. There is a map bill that gives Bortle for various parts of the Earth. The only problem is it's being measured from up down as opposed to down up. Peter, there are devices that allow you to measure Bortle. They are very portable and you can buy them off Amazon. But for now, hang in there, because the comet on the 28th of September rises at 5:48, and on that same day the sun rises at 7 o'clock. So we have a whole hour and 15 minutes between the comet and the sun. So stay tuned. We're going to have that comet very nicely covered at the end of the month. Good night, Livy, and thanks for subscribing and thanks for joining us. Well, this is the light pollution map that I use. Okay, this choice of target was a flop. C5 is no good. I'm going to try to go to M81. Peter, I don't know if you saw this wide angle stack that I got of the Orion region. That is something that Dwarf allows us to do, to go wide angle. I was in a hurry to test all the features, so I did not spend much time. Where is the fireworks galaxy right now? It's too far out of the way. Okay, let's go for M81. I'm trying to take all the filters out for M81 to see what we get. Yeah, there they are, both M81 and M82. I think the wide angle is 2 megapixels. Let me check. Yes, it is 1920 by 1080. The wide-angle lens, you start with the Milky Way, and then you move on to meteor showers, and Aurora Borealis is the one I'm looking forward to. It should do a good job on that as well. Plus you can use it as a sky cam. It has 60-degree field of view, which is enormous. The wide-angle lens has proven very, very useful in finding the sun and finding the moon, especially a new moon when it was only 1%. Couldn't find it in the early morning with any other telescope except dwarf. And that was thanks primarily to the wide angle. As we talked to Dwarf Lab about the would likes as opposed to the must-haves, I'd like them to display somewhere on that screen the altitude and azimuth that the telescope is looking at. We tested Dwarf 3 this morning, asking it to look below the horizon, and it said 9, no. So I'm going to try to see if Dwarf 2 will go below the horizon. Peter, I used that trick to find a comet in the middle of a tree. And as the comet moved and the tree did not, and I was stacking, the tree started disappearing gradually and the comet coming into the forefront. And within half an hour of stacking, I had a beautiful comet and no tree, even though the comet never left the big tree the entire time. Bode galaxy and Cigar galaxy taking shape. And once more, not a single hot pixel in that sensor. By comparison, the Dwarf 2 sensors were extremely noisy. Hello, Brian. Brian, yes, it is not on an equatorial mount. It is on an alt-az mount, and I'm trying not to have start rails. On an equatorial mount I will go 30 seconds, even 60 seconds, but not tonight. I'm trying to maintain consistency in my testing. As a reminder, Brian may not know that I've had a Dwarf 3 for 4 days total. It arrived Wednesday afternoon. So I'm testing everything at 10 seconds alt-az now, and beginning Wednesday we will move to equatorial mount, and I will start comparing different exposures. So please subscribe and join us often. The Pompey Observatory channel has been around for 3 years. We celebrate the 3rd anniversary in 2 days. And during those 3 years I have published well over 2,000 live videos, 2,300 and growing. So when the sky is clear, whether it is daytime for solar observing or nighttime, we are live. So please subscribe and turn on notification and join us. I hope you get yours soon. Yeah, as a Dwarf Lab ambassador, I did not get mine till this week. So they are shipping. Central Illinois. Livy, I'm looking at your asteroid and see what we know about it. According to some reports, they are talking about magnitude of 22, which makes it very hard to see. Brian, the main difference between D2 and D3 that you will notice and enjoy, first of all, you can stack the wide angle lens. The second big difference, obviously, the telephoto lens is 50% bigger on Dwarf 3 than it is on Dwarf 2, and by far the biggest difference is the dual band filter. I'm going to try to pull a side-by-side picture of Dwarf 2 and Dwarf 3 that I took of the California Nebula. Stand by. Brian, I'm gonna pull it up right now. Sorry for the size. I don't know if I can go full screen on this. Okay, here we go. This is California Nebula side by side, Dwarf 3 and Dwarf 2. So that's what you have to look forward to with the dual band filter. Happy is Dwarf 3, grumpy is Dwarf 2. We had a Name the Dwarf contest. Okay, back to Bode's. I'm losing track of who joined when. So Brian, if you have already seen the stack of Orion, please don't mind me putting it back up again. But I did a wide angle stack of the Orion region. This was a very, very short duration stack, just to test stacking. This was the very first night I had Dwarf 3 and I wanted to test all the things in it. But that is the Orion region with the Betelgeuse up there, Bellatrix, Alnitak, and that is Orion. And that's the rest of the sky, and this is my roof. Well, at the speed that it is moving, the asteroid, and its magnitude, I don't know if I have a chance on it even with the 16-inch telescope. I'm gonna have to try. First of all, I'm gonna need somebody updating its coordinates in real time. Betelgeuse is no longer there, but we will not find out for another 300-400 years that it's no longer there. The temperature of the sensor has been reasonably stable in the mid-30s. It's at 34 Celsius. Betelgeuse is a giant dwarf star. It's a red supergiant, 10th brightest star in the night sky. Okay, let's play a quick game. What is the fourth brightest object in the sky? I'll give you a hint. Sun is number 1, Moon is number 2, Venus is number 3. What comes as number 4 as the fourth brightest object in the sky? Bill, yes, absolutely. I wish we had it during the Perseids meteor shower. It would have done wonderful. Do we have any guess as to the fourth brightest object in the sky? Nope, not serious. Are you serious? Nope. No, Genie. It is the International Space Station. Sorry about that. But the ISS is indeed the fourth brightest object in the sky. and not for long we are likely to see the ISS go away before Betelgeuse goes away. It is variable, yes, especially when it's behind the Earth. It can reach a magnitude of -8 under ideal circumstances. Fair enough, okay. When we're done with M81, what's your wish? I have M45, which we have not imaged with the Dwarf 3 yet. I have not seen your post. However, I have been using Google's Gemini, which has been helping me with YouTube, and it seems to be their AI engine. Where did you post your post, Peter? Ah, okay. No, I'll look for it. Yep, I see it. I found it. Yeah, YouTube asked me as one of their testers, also beta testers, to use Gemini for the next 5 weeks as a support, as a co-pilot, if you will, on the channel. And when you see all those fancy titles that are unlikely to come from me, they are coming from the AI engine. When we hit 180 stacked frames on M81, I'm gonna move to M45. It's a classic, and we have not done it with the Dwarf 3 yet. It's 11 p.m. And this concludes this was the Heart Nebula that we took yesterday. That is the advantage of having the larger field of view compared to a C star or a Vespera. Be right back. I am afraid I have to attend to a matter at home which requires that I cut this evening short. It was good chatting with all of you. I will most likely be back tomorrow. So in the meantime, I'm going to wish you a good night and thanks for joining, and we will see you soon.